I'm so happy to have you here, and I'd like to introduce you to Carolina's Matchmaker.
It's great to be here. Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming. So, welcome to Goddess Gab. We are a look into every woman's diary. And so today we're going to cover relationships. My first question kind of for you, Laurie, is how have you seen dating in Charlotte kind of change in the past 5 to 10 years?
Mm-hmm. Well, what I've actually seen is that 10 years ago or so, people were very excited about online dating. It was kind of really hitting its peak, I think. And I think that what's occurred since then is there's a lot of online dating fatigue. I think that people are worn out from dating online. I think that they feel like they are in a candy store initially, and then they just feel like there's too many people and they don't know how to sift through, and then they may have a bad experience with online dating, and then they just shut it all down. Or if you're an attractive person, or just even someone that looks very friendly to be online, people get inundated, and then they don't know how to sort, and they don't know how to figure out who to meet, and so they just say, I can't handle this anymore. And then, they get frustrated. So I think that that's one of the big things that has changed with the culture in the last 10 years or so. And I think also as a result of people being on their telephones all the time, is people are not organically meeting people anymore just randomly. In the coffee shop line, people are staring at their phones. In the elevator, people are staring at their phones. You're walking through the hallways of an office building, people are staring at their phones. People aren't just talking anymore, just randomly talking. And then also, and we were talking about this earlier, Brittany and I, people aren't calling people anymore. They're only texting. So there's a whole form of communication that isn't happening anymore. And there is a lot that's lost in translation. And there's a lot of couples that I introduce to one another who are totally disconnecting because someone says something by text, it's misinterpreted. Nobody knows when does the conversation end. People get insulted when somebody doesn't reply back right away. I mean, there is so much to texting that we could write volumes and volumes about it. And it's just being done very ineffectively. And it's really the first time in the world where people are communicating with the written word in as short a way of saying something as much of a succinct way, and people aren't always that crafty with their words, and the feeling and the emotion is lost, and that's what I feel about texting. So I think that all of that wrapped into one is how things have really evolved and changed in terms of the climate and the culture of dating in Charlotte and everywhere.
I totally have to agree with you. Everyone's always texting. I sometimes am guilty of texting, and so I try to call people sometimes, but you're right, it makes it a little impersonal. Yeah. So do you guys have any questions?
This is Chastity Nicole. Hello, Goddess Gab listeners. Missed you guys. Dating, for me, I guess, because I'm, the single girl. So with that being said, nowadays I kind of feel like dating is a job. Do you hear that often? That it kind of, there isn't, it's been a while since I've been super duper excited about going on a date. It's just kind of getting routine. Do you get that a lot?
I do, but I'll tell you, the people that hire me to help them with matchmaking are really excited about the dates that I send them on because they're good dates. They've been screened out and they've been researched.
Well, because you're going to take the easy work out.
Yes.
The hard work out. And you make it easier, right?
Yes.
Yeah, okay,
and people actually meet in real life, in person, and they actually sit down at a table and have dinner together. And the man actually pays. And people actually exchange phone numbers and don't Google each other ahead of time.
So you mean to tell
or
me
see
you
pictures.
Don't, you mean to tell me you don't, set up Netflix and chill? You mean to tell me that's not what we have going on
No.
here? Because, that's just, who needs a steak, a lobster, and a glass of red wine in conversation when, we're all about fire stick texting and, hey, I'll see you at the club.
No, that just sounds awful.
It is.
Yeah.
Believe me, it is.
And I'm sitting here, listeners, I'm sitting here looking at one of the most beautiful creatures I have ever laid eyes on.
She called me a creature.
believe that
would
she
you?
would ever have any issue finding a great guy.
Well, see, the thing is, I don't want to settle.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to come to your house and do Netflix and chill
No.
and meet you at the club
No.
and da-da-da-da.
No.
So it's like I don't think my standards are too high when I'm asking for what you just said. Call me.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go to dinner. Let's talk until they, want to kick us out the restaurant. Whatever happened to stuff
I don't
like
know.
that?
What happened to courting?
Yes,
Men
that's exactly
need to
what
be
it's
courting
called.
women.
Yes, effort.
Mm-hmm.
Boom. There you go. My word for the night. Effort.
Yeah.
Brittany H., do you have anything you want to ask her?
So this is Brittany Panache, and I wanted to ask you a couple questions about your personal life.
Okay.
So you're currently married,
I am.
and how did you meet your husband?
I met my husband in college. We were both in undergraduate school together. We went to Emory University in Atlanta, and we met actually fundraising for a nonprofit organization in town that raised money for Israel. It's an international organization. And so that's actually a neat segue from me to talk about my philanthropy dating.
Yes.
Yes,
Oh, yes. Tell us
which
more about
is an event that I have usually quarterly where my company joins up with a nonprofit in town, and we raise money. Every single dollar goes to the nonprofit, and I call it philanthropy dating because it gives people an opportunity to raise money and hopefully make friends, network, collaborate, maybe date someone. There's always people exchanging phone numbers. There's always people going out on dates, even right after the philanthropy dating event. People go out for dinner. It's just a really neat way to kind of shift the energy and get people excited about raising money and meeting like-minded people who are open to collaborating on that level. And so I actually have one next week, and obviously this podcast is probably going to come out after that. But just if you go to my website, you'll see all the events that I have coming up. And we've raised over $13,000
Nice.
And
for
what's your website?
different nonprofits. Carolina'sMatchmaker.com is my website. So definitely check it out. If you go to the events tab, you'll see all of my events that are coming up and past events, and you can see photos and whatnot. So it's just a very chill kind of an evening. But people walk into a room and it's filled with single people that are interested in philanthropy and socially conscious people.
Nice.
So it's a really nice group of people.
That's really cool. You talked about energy, and sorry, this is Brittany on the mic, Brittany Bogues, but you talked about energy. So I kind of want to shift it to, what if you are one of those people that you're kind of shy? I'm loud and I'm all over the place, but I have a lot of friends that are kind of shy. So what would you kind of suggest to them as tips to kind of get a little more active and ready to mingle?
Well, first of all, sometimes people that are shy really need to kind of settle into themselves and feel very comfortable with who they are before they go out. So sometimes people that are shy have a little bit of social anxiety. And I think that what's really good for social anxiety is to be very still and just to, do a short meditation, some breathing exercises, and just sit quietly and really just whatever you connect to, universe, God, whatever it is, just say a little prayer, or just try to manifest into your being that I am going to feel comfortable when I go out. I'm going to meet interesting people. Set the bar, set your expectations down. So don't say to yourself, I'm going to go meet my husband or my wife tonight. Just think, I'm going to go out and I'm going to connect with a human being tonight, or I'm going to be doing something where I am helping raise money for a nonprofit organization, or I'm going to go on a hike with this meetup group and I'm going to see beautiful earth and smell the flowers and hear the birds. And as long as you're not expecting the rainbows and pot of gold at the end of it, I think that it's very reasonable to just relax and enjoy the experience. We were talking about mirror work earlier, Brittany and I, and she's familiar with it, and it sounds really kind of strange and corny, but look at yourself in the mirror and say, I love you. Say, you're beautiful. Like, tell yourself, stroke, that inner child in you needs, because everybody's got baggage, everybody's got issues, everybody's got something that went down in their past that they're holding on to that makes them a scared kid inside. And maybe, you know, people that have some social anxiety, they may have some trauma that they've gone through in their life that has caused this to bubble up for them, and they walk into a room and they feel anxious and they don't know who they're going to connect to. Another great thing to do is to bring a wingman or a wingwoman with you to an event. But no matter what it is, if these things are bubbling up, acknowledge it. Say, okay, I feel anxious right now. I'm feeling a little nervous, and that's my body trying to protect me. Okay, so thank you, body, for trying to protect me. And I'm going to acknowledge you, and then I'm going to say, why don't you go sit over there on that plush couch, because I'm here to have fun. And I don't want to feel this way. I don't want to feel anxious and nervous. I don't want this to ruin my evening out. And that's what you can do. You can talk to your feelings. You can talk to your body. Your body is trying to protect you, but sometimes we don't need protection in certain situations, but your body is like in fight or flight mode. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So
it's like fear holding you back.
Yeah, don't let fear hold you back.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I always say fear and faith can't live in the same place.
Yes. Thank you. I agree 100%. Yeah, I love that. Yes, I say breathe faith and breathe fear out.
Yeah, that's
a
good.
Really nice little mantra to go in as you're walking along to your event or whatever you're going to be going into.
I do have another question for you. This is Chastity Nicole here. So what would be, because I honestly, I look at, okay, levels of, not even to say desperation, okay? Mm-hmm. So I've had my parents ask me, why don't you get on, like, you know, eHarmony or Christian Mingle? Like, first of all, yes, I am a Christian, but Christian Mingle, I don't know if that will work out for me. eHarmony, the form is too long, and I have a full-time job. Mm-hmm. I'm not applying to college. Like, that's too much work. Mm-hmm. So I guess after that, the next step would be matchmaking. And I'm pretty sure, you know, you hear people say all the time, okay, well, I'm not that desperate yet, or because that's how I feel about eHarmony. But I feel like if I have to pay to find love, like what breaking point, like what's usually people's last straw to contact you?
A lot of people that hire me, first of all, I don't want to work with anyone that's too anxious. Like, this is my last ditch effort. I'm going to have to hire. And I've had people before, like, signing the contract. I can't believe I'm doing this.
Right. Well, it's hard.
No, I don't want to work with you.
Because, like you said, chivalry's kind of dead. I mean,
people that hire me are people who have tapped out their networks. Mm-hmm. They can't. Some of them cannot be online because they've got positions like C-level executive positions.
Gotcha,
especially the women. They don't want the people below them in terms of the hierarchy at the company seeing that they're online.
Right.
Shows a little bit of vulnerability. I mean, you can always go into
standard.
Yeah, you can go into privacy setting with a lot of these online dating sites, but when you go in privacy setting, people don't see you, so they can't seek you out. So it's kind of like a catch-22 with that situation.
You're just there.
Yeah, exactly. So the people that hire me have tapped out their networks. A lot of the times, you know, if they're a little bit older, they've got kids from a previous marriage. Sometimes they haven't dated in a really long time. Mm-hmm. The online dating thing isn't working for them because it feels too superficial for different reasons, and the other things that we said before. They're not meeting the quality of people that they're looking for. They're meeting people. They're dating. They're always dating different people, but just haven't found somebody that's really substantial with substance. And sometimes women will hire me because they're like really excited to move on with the next phase in their life. And, you know, men and women hire me for the same reason, because they want to have kids. And, you know, they're in their early 30s and they're excited about moving on to the next phase, and they're frustrated. And they're seeing all their friends getting married and having kids, and they're like, what is going on? Have I missed the boat? I have to think of a more creative way to meet someone. And that's when they hire me. And so I like to say to people, I am a consultant, a coach, and, you know, a screener, basically. So when I run background checks on people, that makes people feel safe.
Oh, Lord have mercy. If that could have saved me, sometime last year, that would have been awesome. But speaking of hire, because I'm pretty sure, you know, when people hear that word and hire a matchmaker, what would it run a girl like me to find love through you?
Well, I have
Just a ballpark.
Yeah, I
How
have.
do you work it out?
So first of all, you can always be in my database for free.
Oh,
If a guy hires me that I think would be a good match for you, I could call you up and interview you at that point.
it's like MLS for real estate.
That's right. You'll get invited to my parties. You'll get my newsletter. I mean, there's no guarantee you're going to meet someone when you're in just the database, but that's sort of like base level. You can hire me for 90 minutes. My How to Be Your Own Matchmaker program, where you come and sit down with me. We're going to talk for 60 minutes. I'm going to give you assignments like the doctor gives you a prescription. 6 weeks later, we're back in my office. You know, people have either tried the things out and things are working, or they haven't done anything and they're chastising themselves. And sometimes at that point, they're like, you know what, maybe I should hire the matchmaker. I'm not doing it on my own.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, doing the same thing, definition of insanity, obviously.
Yes.
Expecting different result.
Mm-hmm.
So that's higher, you know, and then I have different programs for people hiring me, and we could work something out. And that's what I say to everyone: come on in, let's figure it out.
I just kind of felt like she was staring through my soul.
I've heard
told
that
you
before.
I was asking for my friend.
Oh yeah, that's right. Your friend. Got it.
Okay, so I have a question.
Yes.
Have you ever met someone where you just cannot work with them?
They're not dateable.
Yes, like they refuse to change. They don't do the homework. They're not open-minded.
You're like, girl, you deserve
Yeah.
to be single.
I've met a lot of people that sometimes they'll even hire me and they'll say that they'll be open to coaching, but they're not. They don't want to really hear what's going on, and sometimes that's what's blocking them from finding someone. But I usually get through to people, and I've been doing this for almost 12 years now, so I kind of know when someone is going to be too difficult a client or that things aren't going to work out in advance. But sometimes I don't, and that's hard. Yeah.
Well, obviously, you've been really successful in what you do, and you've matched a lot of people. So my question, coming from a relationship, is what are some maybe reoccurring traits or something that you see in the successful relationships that you've matched?
Mm-hmm. So what I see are people that are communicating effectively, even on just the little minutia things.
Mm-hmm.
Like my husband, it's like he calls me midday to see how I'm doing, like during his lunch break, and then he calls me on his way home to see what's for dinner. Does he need to pick anything up? He knows me really well at this point, obviously. And then, we're just communicating about different things throughout the day. And I think that that's a key. I think that mutual respect is really important, obviously, in a relationship. I think that we were talking earlier about expectation and how unmet expectation is the singular reason that a lot of times people get divorced. So really having very open dialogue, learning how to handle conflict. I mean, that's a biggie, and I've been talking to people a lot about that lately. People are scared to handle conflict, and I think that couples brush that under the rug for so many years, and I think a lot of times that's often why people end up having affairs and sort of straying or just really disconnecting from their partner, is because they are afraid to bring up the conflict for one reason or another, because they think that everything's just going to go along and everything will just work out because you're married. But guess what? Just because you're married does not mean it's going to work out forever.
Right, yeah.
And it's really sad. And then people learn and grow from divorces. I love working with people who have been divorced, because we can process what's occurred in their divorce, and they can figure out red flags. They can figure out what they're not looking for the next marriage and the next partnership. And I think that's really, really useful information to have. In terms of other things that people should be looking for, a healthy, successful relationship is, I always say, don't go to bed angry. Don't walk out the door. That kind of falls under the, handling conflict resolution inside a marriage. And something that I've been working on personally is really trying to think, how am I coming across to my partner? If I was in his body looking at me, is that what I'd like to see? So even like this evening, I thought, I'm going to give him a hug and a smile before I go off to my podcast, and tell him how much I appreciate him, and try to do something little to make him feel good, because he's a wonderful person. And I think that when people get into long-term relationships, they forget to show their partner how much they love them. And I think it's important to have date night. Put that on the calendar, especially when you got kids. And even if you're in a long-term dating relationship, date night and thinking about your partner like in the early days when you were like
excited,
making cookies,
to get home.
Like just thinking about your guy all the time.
Hey, it's the little things, okay?
Shaving your legs.
Yeah,
that's a good thing.
You get comfortable.
Yeah, you
like
do.
Cheese graters down there.
That's hilarious. That's so true, though. Yeah, it's important to think about your partner as your boyfriend or your girlfriend, even later in life, later in the relationship. Yeah.
Okay, so now that we've kind of done the interview portion of this podcast, why don't we open it up for just hot topics or just open discussion of things that you guys have been wanting to ask that are relationship, oriented. Yeah.
I don't know. What can we talk about this? What's happened recently? I feel like
Tristan Thompson.
Oh my gosh, and Khloe Kardashian.
Oh boy, tell me about that, because I'm off Instagram, so I miss everything.
Brittany's
Nobody
got the
sent me a text.
I just caught up yesterday. So it started at first with footage coming out of him kissing some girl in the club in New York, right?
Wait, this wasn't Jordy though, right?
No.
I saw an article.
But speaking of Jordy, how you get them is how you lose them, sis.
It's true.
But then there was video footage coming out of him and the girl going to the hotel. They're coming back out the next day. He's holding the door open for her. Such a gentleman cheater, Then footage comes out of him at some club last year, like kissing two girls at once, motorboating the girls. Like, Khloe, please tell me y'all was broke up during this time frame. Because this is disrespectful.
Of course not. Why would they be?
And my thing is, it's such a setup because the video footage goes on for 2 days.
But he's so... Okay, he's 26, she's 30, 4?
Something.
No, Kim's 34. She's closer to our age, so let's say like 32, 33. So that's a good question with that topic, because clearly he's in an immature mindset, and I mean you could just tell that by the way they look around each other, right? So with that being said, when you are matchmaking people, is it common that women want older men and men want younger women? Or nowadays, is it vice versa? Because a lot of ladies are rocking the cradle now.
Girl, I'm a baby cougar. I admit it. My dude is like 4 years younger than me. But I'm telling you, he has an old soul.
Yeah.
But see, that's good. And a lot of guys have been talking to me lately, and I'm like, ooh, I smell breast milk. I know I do. And I'm like, how old are you? And they'll be like 24. And I'm like, ugh, what am I doing with you?
They used to make me
some of them are super mature. So, yeah, back to that question.
Yeah.
What are you noticing? Like, what are you doing? Is your new matchmaking style now like, hey, these cougars is coming in strong?
I was talking to a guy today who was, he was such a great guy, 36 years old. And I have a client who's 44. And I was like, I wonder, would you date a little bit older? And he said he would. And I was like, we got to think about that a little bit.
They love it.
It just depends on the guy. It really, everybody is so unique.
See, younger guys, I feel like when they do date, they got mommy issues. Like they're looking to fulfill some, just like girls when they look for older. Well, no, not to say your dude got mommy issues, but I'm saying like a huge.
I didn't take it like that.
Oh, okay. But like a huge gap. I just kind of wonder because some of my guy friends that I've noticed that have dated older women are very immature.
Yeah.
And they go for a woman that's kind of like, she's got a kid or two. Like, they just know they aren't ready for that responsibility.
Yeah.
But, they're like, oh, I got me an older woman, blah, blah, blah. But then I also notice older men who go after younger women are seeking youth.
Yeah. I could see that. And it used to make me mad when younger dudes would, try to talk to me. Like, if I'm at a mall and, a 24-year-old trying to talk to me, I'm like, I'm old enough to be a mother. Like, not really, but I feel like it.
Well, actually, I just be like, oh, you think I'm your age? That is awesome. But, boy, no.
Yeah, the generational gap is crazy.
Right.
Were you even alive when Biggie and Tupac got killed? Like, what am I going to talk to you about?
Exactly. Did you watch Rugrats? Why are you afraid of the dark? Goosebumps. What are we going to talk about? Did you play Nintendo with your son?
No. Did you play Snake on the Nokia?
Right. Nothing.
He's too young for you, sis.
I think the magic age is like an age difference of 4 to 5 years.
Isn't there an equation? Because I used to do it all the time with guys. My dad be like, he better fit in that equation. I'd be like, okay, I know it's like 21 times 7 divided by 2 or something by your age or something where it doesn't seem pedophile-ish.
Yes.
Okay.
That's funny.
Yeah.
So you've heard of that before?
I've heard it all.
I'm going to Google it. It's called the dating age equation.
Well, here's what I think. Men, oftentimes I'll hear a guy say that he wants to date a little bit younger. They're not necessarily looking for, women in their 20s, these men in their 50s, but I think on average 45 years younger. And a lot of times people their age, especially if I'm working with someone whose spouse has passed away, they want to meet people their age. I've noticed this anecdotally. And then on average, I'd say the men are looking for 4 to 5 years younger, or more sometimes. But I don't usually make matches of people that are more than a decade apart.
Oh yeah, because then
I
you
could
just
see
kind
And especially, and then when you
Dating
start
older
working
creepy.
with women in their 60s,
Ooh.
a lot of times they don't want to be meeting men that are too much older than them, because then we're starting to deal with health issues
Yeah.
and
And
different
funerals.
generation
Yeah.
and all that kind of stuff. So I try really hard to make matches of people that are close in age.
I found the equation.
Okay.
So it's half your age plus 7,
Yeah, well, that's not what I do.
or subtract 7.
I don't do that.
Yeah,
I just try to.
That don't work.
I just
either.
try to match people based on their looks and their physique and their personality and their religion and their sense of humor and their education and their emotional intelligence. That's all.
I read.
That's it.
I mean,
That's
that's
it.
That's it.
That's all.
I read somewhere that the old adage of like opposites attract isn't really true. They were saying that like it's what gets you excited at first, but then more times than not, you want to end up with someone that's similar to you with like core values for the sheer fact that you have to make major life decisions with them. And so, can you kind of speak on that a little
Yeah,
bit?
I think core values and I think faith is a huge. That's for me anyway. When I make my matches, that's like my basis is faith, whether someone's faithful or not, or whatnot. Although I'll tell you, in the South, it is really hard having a client who's an atheist.
Wow.
Oh.
Yes,
I can see that.
I have
Yeah.
one, and it is very hard.
Wow.
And it's
to
the
find.
Bible Belt, right?
We're
Yeah,
we're in the Bible Belt, but
It's
people
like,
are
what church do you
people
go
are
to?
leading with faith now.
Oh.
That when I'm meeting them, and it doesn't have to be. I mean, sometimes it's just like a spiritual, not religious, even. But for someone to just have no faith at all or doesn't believe in anything has been difficult with my matchmaking, which is interesting because my fellow matchmaker colleagues that are living in the Northeast, it's like not an issue, and so it's just curious about that. So I love it because it's an important part of my life, connection in that way, and I pray for all my clients. In fact, I have a date out right now, and I was like, say a little prayer, hope it works. Media, and we're all connected. So, I believe in the collective unconscious, and we all have energy that's interchangeable, and we're all connected. So, I think it's just that's an important part: morals, ethics, and values. And then, of course, sometimes people want to have some things in common, like activity-wise, and then other things, so that they're attracted to that. Politics has been a huge
I bet.
issue.
Right now,
The
yeah.
past couple of years,
I
I'm
can
pretty sure.
imagine. Touchy.
It is a nightmare.
Gee, you like digit. A digit.
Like, I liked you up until...
Till-
I saw you post something on
Yes,
Facebook.
because I lost a lot of Instagram followers, and I unfollowed a lot of people. And I'm like, dang, I didn't even know who you were.
Yeah,
Right, can't even go to work and look at people the same.
It's like breaking up families.
But speaking of openness, and then I guess we can kind of wrap it up because we don't want to keep you all night. Although we are going to bring you back. You got a lot of advice, and she's a gorgeous woman, and she's sassy. I wish y'all could see her outfit. She's on this cute leopard dress.
Yes.
Curls, hair popping, lip gloss
Killing
popping,
them.
pomade purple on the nails. heels on the feet. Oh, she's fly. But, so, speaking of that, and politics and core values, and with today's society being so open, do you work with everybody? So,
LGBTQ.
Do you work with that group of people? Like, are you open? So when you say love, you mean love, or do you just mean, just man and woman? Like, are people, would our listeners, we have a lot of different people in different communities, would they be able to contact you?
Yeah,
and have
for sure.
success?
Yeah.
Oh, that's
They
awesome.
should. They should
I'm all
definitely come
about
to me.
that. Definitely.
Yeah, I'm all for it.
Before we wrap up, I do have a question that's kind of personal.
Okay.
What advice do you have to like a recently engaged couple?
In terms of what exactly?
As far as making the relationship last for the long term.
First of all, have the shortest engagement time possible in planning the wedding.
Really?
Because
Do you not
engagement
want to
time,
run away or something?
yeah. The engagement itself is one of the most stressful experiences that you could possibly have with the two families trying to merge together and plan a wedding. So I would say try to keep it short and sweet if you can, because it brings up a lot of problems just from people I've talked to. And then, I feel like in the beginning of a relationship and during that whole time period when you're still like in that ooey gooey yummy love stage is track it, do some journaling around it, and really, because at that point it's just like the two of you, and then like the outside world is out there, and soon enough you start letting community in and other things that start drawing you apart from one another. And then sometimes people have children and whatnot, and that's when people really get away from their core love. And so I say track it, journal it, and really try to get back to it when you're having those difficult nights, when the baby's up all night, and when you have a family member who needs your help, and a best friend that's pulling you in different directions. Like, always remember to come back to your spouse and recall the beautiful beginning times of when it was just the two of you in love, and that deep, deep love where all you wanted to do was lie around in bed and just gaze at each other's eyes.
And eat cereal when it's raining, and y'all watch the Golden Girls or Lifetime movies.
So would you mind giving us your social media handles before we roll out?
You're so cute. Yes, my on Facebook, Carolina's Matchmaker. Same with Instagram, Carolina's Matchmaker, and Twitter, at Carolina's Match. And you can find me on LinkedIn I think it's under my name, Laurie Berzack. But you could probably just look for Carolina's Matchmaker on LinkedIn too, so you would find me there.
Awesome.
Thank you so much.
This is so fun. You guys are awesome.
And thank you, listeners, for tuning in to another episode of Goddess Gab. We really enjoyed having you. And this is Brittany Bogue signing out.
Chastity Nicole, goodbye.
At Brittany Panache.
Later.
And Laurie Berzack. Bye.
Bye.
Awesome. Next time we got to bring vodka.